Social media marketing in the current landscape can feel intimidating as all hell. And honestly, if you're a beginner, you're starting from scratch, it can feel almost impossible to know what to learn, who to learn from, where to look, and how to actually approach growth in social media if you're starting completely from scratch. So in this video, I wanted to break down my approach to growing on social media for a business that has no social media presence. If I was being hired as a freelancer or a consultant for this type of business, how would I approach that and how would I take those first initial steps? And if you are new here, my name is Maggie Stara. I'm a digital marketing strategist and an educator with over 8 years of experience and more than 150,000 marketing students, which blows my mind still to this day. But I have been teaching on busy marketplaces like Skillshare and Udemy and have become a top instructor on these. So I know a thing or two about teaching beginners how to succeed on social media, and hopefully I'm able to pass some of that knowledge on to you in this video. So let's get into it. So first we want to analyze the competition. This might seem like a really weird thing to look at first. I know it seems like there should be a dozen other things that come before this step, but the reason I really like doing this as a freelancer is because I might be working with a client who's in an industry that I've never heard of, or, well, that's probably not the case, but let's say an industry I'm not super familiar with, so I need to get familiar. And the easiest way to do that is figuring out who else is in their space and what are they doing online that's working for them. But I don't just mean sort of direct competitors in this sense, you know, other local businesses. So for example, if my client in this case was a local accounting firm, I wouldn't just be looking to other local accounting firms. I would be looking Australia-wide. I would be looking international. And then I would be sort of analyzing what those businesses are doing well, what they're not doing well. But then I would take that one step further and also look at other businesses in other industries that have the same audience as our client. Because let's say in this case, this accounting firm is looking to target small business owners. I could then look at, you know, financial planners, digital marketing agencies, insurance brokers, like people that basically small business owners locally need to use. And I would go, okay, what are they doing online? What's resonating with this audience that I also want to attract? But then in terms of really diving deep into the analysis, I would probably stick to people within the same industry, whether that's locally or internationally. And I would look at, you know, exactly what's working well for them. How frequently are they posting? What type of content are they posting? What type of content is resonating most with their audience in terms of views and engagement? Obviously, we can't see the types of lead conversions that they're getting because we are only seeing things from the outside in, but you can still get so much beautiful data just from analyzing their accounts from the outside in. So I would definitely look at all of that. I would look at, you know, are they running ads? We can look at free tools like the Meta Ads library to help with things like that, so you can see, are they running ads? What kind of ads are they running? And then you could continue going down this rabbit hole where you see, do they have a lead magnet? Do they have a newsletter? You know, actually sign up for the newsletter and figure out what their sales process is. I know it might seem a bit sneaky, but I guarantee you, if they've done their approach to social media marketing well, they did this to other people. There's nothing wrong with figuring out what other people are doing and what's working well for them and where there are opportunities for you to kind of maybe leverage the things that are not going so well for them. And then I would also look at the types of content that are doing well and the platforms that they're approaching their content on, and then see if there are any opportunities for me to do things a little bit differently with direct local competitors. So for example, for our accounting firm, let's say there are other local accounting firms that are leveraging short form video content on Instagram, Reels, and TikToks, but they're not utilizing YouTube Shorts at all. They haven't touched it. Then I would think, you know, as a social media marketing strategist, I would look at that and go, okay, well, if my audience are small business owners, you know, they're busy, they're probably not spending all of their time on social media. They're probably going to Google and YouTube to look for solutions to their problems. And if we're not on YouTube, then we're not showing up on Google most likely. And there's definitely an opportunity there for me to break into the market and maybe stand out from the competition. So that's how you can start to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole of ideas and figuring out what are the competitors doing and where can I kind of bring in my flair and maybe do things a little bit differently or improve on their existing strategy. Then next, you want to set clear social media goals. The reason I think this is so important is because it will determine everything else that you do. And I think as marketers, we fall into the trap of thinking that everyone's goal on social media is to grow their followers and views and all those vanity metrics. And that's just not necessarily true. And if you've always approached social media as a consumer and not as a producer or a creator or a freelancer, and you're new to that side of things, I totally understand why it seems like, my clients are gonna wanna grow to 1 million followers. But there are plenty of businesses out there whose goal on social media is pure maintenance. They don't depend on social media for leads, and they have excellent word of mouth, they have excellent referrals, they do networking, they do direct sales. Their goal with social media is pure maintenance, where they just want to know that if somebody that they've talked to at a networking event or called on the phone is gonna go to their social media accounts, that there's gonna be something there. It's not gonna be just blank. There's gonna be some testimonials, there's gonna be some customer stories and stories behind the business and featuring employee successes and things like that. So it's really, really important to almost become advisors for our clients and sort of really gauge what their goals with social media are. And you can do that by actually kind of bringing it to them and say, look, if in 6 months time, in 6 months of us working together, would you rather have 40 new clients? Or would you rather have 40,000 views and 4,000 new followers? Any business hopefully would likely say, yeah, I'd rather the business, thanks. If they're not saying that, then that's fine as well. Obviously, some businesses are in this for the growth because that's their strategy, and you also might be working for a creator, in which case they want the exposure. But a lot of businesses operate and create, 6, multi-6, even 7-figure businesses with less than 10,000 followers online. And that's something that I definitely didn't realize when I first got into this. I just thought, you have to have huge follower numbers in order to do big business through social media. And that's just not the case. So if you can kind of advise your clients to get out of their own heads and forget the surface level metrics and sort of really rise above the vanity of it all and be like, look, you may not get beyond 10,000 followers because you're a local plumber. It may not get there. However, the strategy is this, and it's gonna bring you new business and it's gonna retain existing business, and that's why it's amazing. And if you can kind of educate your clients around that, or how I would do it is to educate my clients around that, then everything else will run so much smoother. So if you can set really clear social media goals that are really tailored to their actual business goals, then everything else will be so much easier. Then once you know what you're hoping to achieve, it's time to analyze the business as a whole. And this is a really big one because we often, especially as beginner social media marketers, feel really afraid to talk to clients about parts of their business that don't involve us, that we're not directly responsible for. And I totally understand it. But the reason that this is an important discussion to have, and it's important to understand what's happening in the business outside of the social media responsibilities, is because honestly, the amount of times that I've had people come to me and go, all right, we want to do this and this and this with our marketing, when in fact, they don't have the foundations in place to actually handle any new business. It's very Fire Festival-esque, where you can have this amazing marketing plan, but unless you know how to execute on it, it all turns to, Fire Festival. So no, we can't have that going on. And it's really important for you, if you can manage it, to talk to the business and figure out what else is going on. Are there current leads that are coming in? Is it converting? Is it going well? Is their website up to scratch? Or was it built in the 90s? Do they have resources? Have they figured out their budget? There's just so many things, because really the best marketing in the world is just not going to fix a bad sales process or a broken website or a non-existent email marketing system. So they need to make sure those things are in place before you even begin doing social media marketing, because otherwise it's going to make you feel like you're failing, when in fact problems are not actually happening on your end, they're happening on what the other end should be responsible for. So that's definitely key. And then once you know those foundations are solid, then it's time to develop your social media strategy. So I do go into how I would do this with the help of AI in this other video, so make sure to go check that out. But effectively, you just want to make sure you're doing the best you can with the resources you have available to you, because there's absolutely no point in you developing this amazing social media strategy that has all the bells and whistles and then realizing your client has no budget to actually execute on it. So you want to know what your resources are, what are the timelines, is there crunch time, do we have a product launch within the next week, do we need to pump some ads into this, or do we have all the time in the world, so we can really approach this from an organic standpoint. And then what are the resources? Do we have video equipment you can use? Do we have freelancers or other team members who are really comfortable in front of cameras or really uncomfortable, and do we need to hire somebody to do that if we want to do video content with on-camera content? So there's just so many things to really consider in terms of the resources that we have in order to actually develop a strategy that can be executed on, so no one gets overwhelmed. And then you also want to think about the type of content that makes sense for your type of business, because I've seen this happen where somebody takes a winning social media strategy for one, let's say, product-based business and tries to fit it to suit their product-based business, and it just doesn't work, and they don't know why. And it's because they haven't really thought about how people purchase their individual products. And the same is true for service-based businesses, but it's a little bit easier to demonstrate for product-based businesses. So let's think about this in terms of, let's say, an electric scooter company. An electric scooter costs $900,000, and it's very much a one-off product. It's something that people, research, like, buy, and then probably don't buy multiples of. And so the approach to social media for that kind of client would be so different. I would probably do purely video-based content, because I don't see the point in doing static content for that type of business, because it's very you need to feel like you're using the scooter and you can feel how other people are using the scooter. Static-based content just doesn't really get you there. So I would go purely video, and then I would just pump quite a bit of money into ads, and then have a strategy for repurposing user-generated content and word-of-mouth content. So hopefully people buy the product, they hopefully tag the brand on socials if we've done our customer flow correctly, and then share it with their friends, and there's that beautiful word of mouth marketing if they like the product, and then do your job for you for acquiring customers within their network. So I can't really imagine that those type of people would really follow that type of account unless you're doing like crazy scooter stunts or something. Probably they're just looking to kind of engage with that type of account on social media to see if this is the right purchasing decision for them, and possibly to tag the business, but maybe that's it. Some people will obviously follow it, but I would say it's probably not the big strategy for that type of business. Whereas if you have like a luxury stationery brand that is still a product-based business, but is set up for referrals and repeat business more so. The people who, really enjoy the products and keep buying them for years to come, for themselves, for their families, and yes, referring other people, it's very much an ongoing ecosystem. That kind of brand would have a very different social media strategy in terms of their approach, because the price point is lower, so it's not quite as effective in terms of your profit margins for ad spend. But also, this is the kind of brand that can really develop relationships through organic content. So that's the kind of brand that I would still definitely do ads for, run ads for. But in terms of their organic content, I would really approach it by doing probably 50% the kind of attraction content that, shows people a little bit about how to use the products and inspires and informs and educates. Then maybe 30% would be that kind of nurturing content where we would answer some frequently asked questions and show people behind the scenes, which is the kind of more intimate side. And then 20% would be pure conversion content where we're just getting them to buy. So that way you are not really just developing this on fully getting people to buy all the time. It would have more of a storyline, so people would have an incentive to follow these accounts, so that when we have sales or we have new products and there's new things for people to buy, if they've enjoyed the products in the past, hopefully they're ready to buy from you again and again. And that's why that social media engagement for that type of account is so key. So, two technically, product-based businesses, very different price points obviously, but totally different strategies. So you want to make sure that resources, what do you have available to you that you can use, and B, what's actually going to work for your business in terms of how people interact with your sales process. And then it's time to get handles across all the platforms, but focus only on one or two. So if this was for a new business, I would start by going to something like namecheck.com, and there are other websites that do this where you can check if the handles you're looking to use are available. Obviously, it's not flawless. You also want to make sure you go to each of the platforms and actually check that your handle is available, but it's a really good place to start in terms of brainstorming. So if you've got a couple of different business ideas in mind and you want to make sure that, it's available on as many networks as possible, that's my first step. And then I would go and secure that handle across all the different social media profiles. Even if you have absolutely no intention of ever posting on a company LinkedIn page or an X account, I would still go and just secure the handle. Now, the handle doesn't have to be exactly the same across platforms. Obviously, it's ideal for it to be the same, but one platform might have a dot in the middle, one might have an underscore, they might be slightly different. That's okay. I think it's just still important for you to make sure that you have ownership over those accounts, because you don't know what you're going to need to do with your business 10 years down the line, and you want to make sure that you have secured your handles and don't have to change your business name because you didn't do it in time. So I would definitely do that, and then I would write a little bit of a bio on all the different social media networks, and I would add in your links. So that way, if somebody lands on any one of these platforms, they can go to your website and find more details there. So I do cover exactly how to do this and how to create content on each of these platforms and how to develop more advanced social media strategies, all in my powerful social media marketing course, which thousands of students have gone through, and you can get 20% off using the link in the description below. And the reason I say to only focus on one or two is because unless you have a huge team, it's impossible for you to be really good at everything. It's just impossible. Even if you have a big team, there's still big businesses that have a huge team that are really not mastering all of the platforms, because the more you divide up your time, the less effective your strategy will be. And that's definitely true in the early days. So what I would do is I would really just laser focus on one or two platforms for a little while. And then eventually, once I feel like I've mastered those, it's all going like clockwork, we've got a really solid plan in place, and we're happy to expand because maybe we've made a bit of money, we can reinvest into the business, and we want to expand to other platforms, we can then do that because we've secured our handles. But in terms of selecting which platforms to focus on first, I would honestly just look at where your audience is most likely hanging out and most likely converting. For the example of that accounting firm, I would definitely say not enough people in professional service-based businesses do YouTube, and they absolutely should. If it was my client, I would say, let's do YouTube videos, both long form and short form, because you do not need 10,000 views. You need 10 views or 100 views and get one person to become an accounting client, which is an ongoing 10K a year retainer. So you don't need the massive scale of YouTube, but you need the searchability. So I would definitely advise them to do long form and short form YouTube content, and then possibly repurpose the short form content onto Instagram and TikTok just to sort of test it out, as long as we cannot get too obsessive over our metrics on those platforms, because we know those are not our key focus. We are simply repurposing for those platforms just to see, does something happen? And I wouldn't focus too much time onto those platforms unless I started seeing a lot of traction. I started getting a lot of DMs from people being like, this is awesome. Then I would maybe go, okay, we obviously need to invest some resources into these platforms. But that's how I would definitely approach it, because if you divide up your time too much, you really burn yourself out. And that also brings me to my next point, which is to outsource what you can. So I know for me as a freelancer, it felt really scary to be the person suggesting to a client that they should do something in their business that I wasn't capable of executing on. So often I would actually not have those conversations. I would think, oh, they could really use this platform or this content type, and I can't execute on it, so I just wouldn't make the suggestion, because I would think, well, I don't want to say, hey, you need to hire somebody else, because I thought, they're going to think I'm replaceable or I'm not good enough, or they'd find another person. And then on the other side of that, when I became a client and started, being in the position to hire people for my business, I put it off for years and years and years, because I thought, it's going to take so long to train people to do things the way I want them done. So I'm just not going to bother, because I can just do it all. And that kept me stagnant for so many years, because I could have outsourced things so much sooner and been so much happier. And no, I didn't land it on the first couple of goes. I had to go through a few people that weren't a good fit until I found the people that were. And it takes a little bit of time, but in the long run, that is how you're able to have a sustainable business, because you can't do it all. And as a client, I would say if I had somebody on my team come to me and say, look, I saw your competitor or this other business doing Google ads, and I think we could do this, but you'd need to hire a professional Google Ads specialist. I can't do that, but I think your business could really benefit from that. I'd give that person a huge bonus. I'd be like, that's an amazing suggestion. Thank you so much. How have I not thought of that? Like, that's so brilliant that you actually took time out of your day to think about how my business could benefit from skills outside of your existing skill set, and thought of solutions, and maybe even came to me and gone, okay, I did a little bit of research and here are some 5 Google Ads specialists that I think you should interview. I mean, that person needs to be president. That's amazing. That's not something I would punish as a client. But again, as a freelancer, I was very much like, if I tell them I don't have the skill set, they're gonna freak out and they're gonna fire me. So I understand both sides of it 100%. But if you can get your clients, or if you are a client, if you can get onto outsourcing sooner so that you can focus on only the things that you can do and that you want to do, and then the other things can be taken up by people who are specialists at what they do, which will help the business grow, then that is such a powerful thing. So I'm a huge fan of outsourcing, and I'm also a very big fan of optimizing your workflow. So in my social media courses, I spend probably a disproportionate amount of time on this topic, because I honestly think people don't focus on it enough, but I think it's so important for freelancers to be so clear on what goes into the planning, the scheduling, the approvals, every part of your workflow, and understanding how it all works together. And then also making sure that you become a master of batching, and you're not just going through your days creating one reel a day for the whole month, because it sucks up so much of your time if you aren't doing those things effectively. So for example, if I was shooting or creating a strategy and a content calendar for my client, let's say we've kind of agreed on a strategy, we've put together some sort of a content calendar, so they've approved rough ideas, and it's time for me to actually go and execute on those. I would break that up and have one day that would be purely for planning and concepts and visualizing and mapping everything out. Then the next day, I would probably script. If it was videos, I would script all the videos in one day. The next day, I would shoot all the videos in one day. Then the next day, I would edit all the videos in one day. And then the last day would probably be for optimizing, creating any cover images or thumbnails if I needed those for videos, and then sending over for approvals, and doing any of the kind of last little tweaks, any closed captions, accessibility features, things like that. So obviously you may not always be able to fit everything into one day, but that way your brain is only ever focusing on one task at a time. Your brain is like, today is editing day. I am only editing, I'm not focusing on anything, or today is caption writing day. Today I'm just writing captions, I don't have to focus on anything else. You save so much time, rather than imagine if every single day you had to plan your reel, find music, write a rough script, then shoot the thing, edit the thing, post the thing, write a caption. You know what I mean? It would take you so long, because that is how I did things in the early days, when my clients would just be like, we need you to do this, we don't care what time frame there is around this, just produce this content. And I was so inefficient. So it's really important that you get a really good workflow in place, that you leverage project management tools like Asana and Notion, and get processes in place. And I'm going to talk so much more about that on this channel. But for now, I definitely want to make sure that you go check out this other video that I did mention earlier, which is all about how you develop a social media strategy and a content plan with ChatGPT, which is going to cut your time down in half, if not more. So it's an awesome video, and I can't wait to see you there.